My name's Catherine Tinsley, and I'm with the Nocturnal. How are you doing today?
I'm making
Yeah,
it, every day. I try not to look at the news as much, but it's always overwhelming and frustrating. But I'm happy to be talking about the show and yeah, just getting the word out about it.
yeah. I mean, it's amazing. I loved it. So I'm excited to be able to interview you about it.
Perfect. Did you get a chance to see all the 4 episodes?
Yes. I watched them last week. I think they were phenomenal. I loved it. um, so many of us know you from writing the play Tina, the Tina Turner musical, and you have this great background as a playwright. How do you feel like working as a playwright has prepared you for your career in television and film?
Oh, that's such a great question. I feel as though coming from the theater world, I came into TV with such a sense of vision and a clarity of like what my mission statement was. I got into the business of storytelling because I wanted to see complex versions of myself up on the stage. And I'm really grateful that I've been given this opportunity to translate all of that to the screen. It's been kind of overwhelming being put in this position of power because there's so few Black female showrunners out there.
Right.
We all know each other. We be like, girl, what am I supposed to do with this budget? So I've been lucky that I've found a really great sisterhood. But it's the learning curve is so high. Even though, like I said, you in the theater world, you come to your work as a singular voice with vision. In the TV landscape, you have to share your perspective, and people, you have to trust that people are going to interpret your vision correctly. And
Right.
so I've learned a lot about delegating and knowing that I can't do everything by myself. And I actually really love the more collaborative aspect of television.
Right. And so speaking of sort of having a collaborative aspect, you mentioned that you have sort of the sisterhood of
Hmm.
these Black writers. What has that support system been like, especially with now your show coming out, I think July 12th?
Yeah. I mean, it's the fact that I can email, um, Janine, who used to run Claws, and ask her a question about casting. It means that I can, give Nkechi a call, who runs All American, and complain about how hard it is to do this job. I'm like, do you sleep? Like, is this job really 24 hours? And she's like, yes. So the fact that I'm able to get insight from, it is a small group.
Right.
But I've been so grateful. Like, I remember emailing Ava about a director, and she was literally in the middle of setting up a shot for When They See Us, and she immediately, emailed me back.
Wow.
Yeah, like that's how tight we are, and how we are rooting for all of us to win. Like Issa said, we want all the Black folks to win. We rooting for everybody Black and everybody female. So I'm stepping into a beautiful sisterhood because I think we all know how hard it is.
Right. And
Mhm.
sort of with the show, you have P Valley, which is based on your play Pussy Valley, and it took 6 years of research for that project. What was that like, doing 6 years of research?
Well, it's interesting. I must say, when you first embark on your research, you don't think it's going to take that long.
Right.
But one thing leads to another, leads to another, leads to another. And I'm actually grateful for the long period of time that it took to learn about the world, because there's so many different levels, and there's so many different women to learn about. There's so many aspects of the business. And so to have been able to start my research actually in New York City, because that's where I was based when I started working on the play, and then kind of like coming back to home base, which is down south, and visiting all those clubs, or rather revisiting all those clubs that I used to go to coming up in Memphis, Tennessee, and then going to Atlanta and hanging hanging out at Magic City, to really understand, the differences between Southern strip clubs and clubs anywhere else. Like
right.
the Southern strip club experience is real different. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that the Deep South is such a conservative place, and it is ruled by religion. I say, there's two B's that rule down south, and it's the Bible and the bullet. And the fact that this space has been able to flourish despite the kind of moral high ground that a lot of people stand on down south is has been very surprising. I think that space has been a very liberating space for women, whether it's economical liberation or just the liberation of self and sexual expression. And so I was just really grateful that I took the time to be able to dig into all those cracks and crevices of the business.
Right. And sort of with this process of bringing these stories to the stage and now like the small screen, were there any challenges that you face with sort of bringing this story to life?
I feel like one of the biggest challenges that I face is the fact that to switch from it being a play version to a TV story is that thing of figuring out what is the story engine, and how are you creating a story that people are going to come back to week after week and hopefully year after year. And so that was a thing of basically learning how to rely on all of my creative partners and the writer's room, and the fact that I had like a little bit of production experience. Like I had shadowed before on a TV set, but when it's your set, when you are the captain and of all those souls, it makes you feel really responsible. And I will say that knowing that as a Black woman, I was doing a story that was focused on a marginalized group of Black women. It made me adamant that we really had to get it right, that we had to not only do this with authenticity and flair, but we needed to do it with a ton of respect. And I think we really did that, from the writing to the production, and now to, getting it out into the world.
So one thing that I thought was really valuable was while watching is that there were sort of larger conversations about colorism and gentrification and sort of things that we're talking about in Black households pretty much every day.
Yeah.
What was it like kind of bringing that to just script and then the screen and having that sort of conversation leave with audiences once they watch it?
As a writer, I'm always writing from my lived experience. And so growing up Black, growing up Southern, my work is always unpacking all of the isms. I always say that as a Black woman, we live at the intersection of race, class, and gender in a way that others don't. And to be able to talk about colorism in a way that felt like it wasn't like an academic discussion. Like it was about how it really impacts us on an emotional level, how colorism impacts us in terms of our self-esteem. The fact that Miss Mississippi, she thinks she's pretty for a Black girl. The fact that Mercedes is always side-eyeing Autumn, like, well, she just laying up there looking light. And those are real divisions that have been in our community for centuries, actually.
Right.
And so to be given an opportunity to look at it and dissect it through art and from a humanistic perspective, I think that's when you can really understand those issues even more.
Right. And do you feel as though you mentioned before, a lot of times when these conversations are happening, the language is not necessarily accessible.
Mm.
So having this on the television platform, do you feel like it makes the conversation more accessible for viewers who aren't necessarily a part of the intellectual space?
Absolutely. I feel like storytelling creates this space of understanding for all types of people. And as Black folks, we've been handed misrepresentation after misrepresentation in terms of the imagery that Hollywood has put out about us. And so to have the television medium, which is such an accessible medium, to bring to light all of these issues and through very complicated characters, I think makes those ideas land even more. It's like we are using fiction in order to tell the truth. Like they're characters, they're not real people, but because we're beaming them into people's living rooms, we're also kind of beaming them into people's hearts. And hopefully there's this space of empathy that's created for people that we've, dehumanized for so long.
Right. And sort of with the process of molding these characters and really telling their stories beyond their careers, what was your inspiration for that?
I interviewed so many women, like over 40. As a matter of fact, it probably was more once I like really, really think about it. And so they were always the inspiration. Real life for me is the jumping off point. I think there's this great Van Gogh quote. It's you have to paint from life, and I think as an artist, you have to use everyone who's around you and put them into your story, and put them into your art, put them into your reflection, because that's what art is. So it's just been always part of my process, and the fact that I was able to talk to so many women who were exotic dancers for so many different reasons,
Right.
really allowed me to infuse my characters with a lot of truth, and to be able to articulate their struggles and also to articulate their dreams. Like these women, they regular, they just like you and me. They they work hard, they cry, they fight, they love. And I really wanted people to see all of that, the darkness and the light, the cracks and the crevices, everything.
Yeah. One thing that I really appreciated was that the characters were, like you said, regular. Do you feel like viewers being able to see that and see their lives as characters will help challenge sort of ideas people have about strip clubs and strip club culture?
Yes, I really feel as though just humanizing them will make all the difference in terms of pushing up against what the marginalization that I think has happened around
Right.
women who do exotic dancing. We live in a culture that I would say dehumanizes women across the board, and so if you add on and I'm a stripper, they're really shamed, they're really dismissed, they're really denigrated. And so I really feel as though to use the power of storytelling to really lay out their humanity is giving them power, and making them seen and heard in ways that they haven't always been heard before. Yes, we have had, particularly in recent years, stories about dancers. We've had hustlers. We had Players Club a long, long time ago. But we are living in the moment where women who have gone through that life are part of the mainstream. We see the success of Cardi B, and there's your Black Chinas and your Amber Roses who have created whole empires for themselves. So I just think it's high time to show how complicated that road is when you are a dancer, and how you kind of flip flop in between your real life. Oh, my baby, he didn't broke in. That's real life right there. That's real life. Flip flopping in between. Your stage persona and your real life persona. But I find that women all over the world kind of have a performance that they give to people, and then they're in behind closed doors, they're their private selves. So it's a way to kind of articulate how all women kind of wear a mask, but we're just using the strip club to really talk about that line between appearance versus reality in every woman's life.
Right, right. Well, thank you so much for writing such a powerful television show. I'm so excited for people to watch it come July. But thank you for being able to tell our stories. It's truly
Thank
appreciated.
you. Thanks for writing about us.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You
And
too.
enjoy the time with the kids.
Oh yeah, he always breaking in on me.
Bye. So you play Uncle Clifford, who is the HBIC of the Pink and this familial figurehead. What was your preparation for this role?
The preparation has been over a duration of time because I was originally in the production of the play when it was done back in Minneapolis. In the full production went up, I think, in 2015, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around there. Um, but prior to that, it was a lot of readings and stage readings in New York and things like that. So my preparation has been over time. But this version of Uncle Clifford and the world of P Valley is vastly, vastly, vastly different from that play. And my preparation, I did a lot of listening to music. I wanted to really get into Key Glock and Yo Gotti, Meg, Ade, Big Crit, and all of that. So for the tone, and for the accents and the dialect, I did a lot. And this is non-conventional, but I did a lot of shopping. I would just go to different department stores, and I wouldn't go to like Macy's or Nordstrom's, like higher end places. I wanted to go to places that would people in the South would have access to. They have access to those stores for sure, but they are usually a further drive away. So I would
Right.
go to like the Marshalls, the Rosses, the Targets, and things like that, thrift stores, and I would shop in the women's sections. As a gay man, there are certain things that I'm afforded, just by the nature of being a man. And I wanted to understand what it would be like if I were non-binary, and what is that non-binary experience like to be gender fluid. And I wanted to understand that on a visceral level uh, and a practical level. Like, okay, I can't buy clothes here. Okay, I'm going to buy more clothes online, so I don't have to deal with the hassle. That thought process helped prepare me for the role. Seeing people look at me a little strange, like, what are you doing in this section looking at swimsuits? Or, well, why are you looking at this mesh top or these shoes? Or why is he trying on these shoes? Because so you still got to try on the shoes to make sure they
Right.
fit right, that you could do what you could do in the
Right.
shoe, right? So people seeing that, and also some people embracing it. Some people like, oh, those look nice on you. I had a woman one time, she told me, she's like, oh, I like those on you. And I was like, thank you. And little nuggets like that are how, for me, Uncle Clifford started to come to life, and I started to get in touch with who she is. And I had lots of conversations, to be honest with you, with other members of the LGBT community, friends of mine that are trans men and trans women. So I had conversations with them and other gay women and gay men. I was just like, what are y'all seeing? What do you need? What do you miss? What do you wish could happen? Okay. And then I did a real deep dive on Instagram, and I would watch a lot. I
Love
would
it.
watch a lot of people that are non-binary and see what was missing, and use even as an actor, that big word, if. Like, if I were in their shoes, what would I want people to know? Or what's missing? What is their family like? What is their home life like? Like, you have such all of this energy. I also wanted to know, what could it be to be in their position and in their shoes.
Right, right. And so one of the beautiful things of the show is that one of the main characters is non-binary. Do you
Mhm.
feel as though having that sense of visibility is super important?
Absolutely. I think that visibility is so important because without it, you don't know that it exists.
Right, right,
When I was a child, I never in a million years, you could not have paid me $1 million to think that this was going to happen, right? For me, a little black boy from Detroit, you know? But to be in this position, I've already heard from people, even when we were filming, one of the extras actually shared with me and said, hey, I don't want to disturb you, but I just want you to know I appreciate you. And he shared some personal things about, like, if he had seen a character like Uncle Clifford on TV when he was younger, there might not have been some things that he would have done. So I think that it's important because it lets you know, hey, even for those of you who have children that might be non-binary or gay, lesbian, or bisexual, or pansexual even. I think that it's about understanding that they're still a person. They're still human. They still laugh. They still have faith, whether that is in God, universe, whatever that person particularly believes. I am a Christian all day. So like to have Uncle Clifford talk about church, talking about Jesus, I think it's revelatory for sure, but it happens.
And one of the most beautiful things about Uncle Clifford is that she really walks in her truth. And you sort of see that throughout the show. Do you feel as though people seeing this character on television, especially on a major network, will help them come to terms with their own truths and walk in their own truths?
Yes, for sure. I think that when you see Uncle Clifford in different wigs throughout this season, it's not an arbitrary choice, and it's not like every scene you have to have a different hair. That's not the intention behind it. It's like, this is how you feel that day. Or you could be feeling very depressed in a dark space, but you want to put on a rainbow wig to bring you some joy. I was at the bank the other day, and my banker, he has these colorful socks on. He is such a straight-laced guy, but he has these colorful socks. I think they're little things that bring us all joy, that are sometimes an internal thing, that just happen to manifest externally. So I think that, yeah, for sure, it gives people permission to be themselves. I think seeing a character that is honest, true, and really a central part of the story, not just an auxiliary character that's all on the side. I think having her at the core of the story can really help people in understanding who they are, who their children might be, and just different ways to express yourself, regardless of your gender identity, and say, hey, I want to wear some, I want to try that red hair, That part I get from my mama. My mama she is a senior, but she still got herself a good little jet blue jazzin, her jazzin hair color. If you know about jazzin. You're like, Sandra, are you wearing blue? Is that blue in your hair? Your hair's. She's like, yeah, I just felt a little special. So I took that like from my mom and the women in my life. And every look that Uncle Clifford has is actually an homage to a Black woman, whether that's Lena Horne, whether that's Kelly Rowland, whether it's my mama, Sandra Dee, it's a lot. But I wanted to make sure that Black women were seen and respected. Black hair was respected and appreciated for the art that it is,
Yeah, and when sort of bringing that to the screen, what was that process like with bringing in the diversity of Black women, Black hair, and Black culture into your character?
It was a collaborative experience. It was so collaborative. I mean, my makeup artist, she's a Black woman, Para Thomas. My hairstylist, she's a Black woman, Arlene Martin. My showrunner and the writer of the show, Katori Hall, she's a Black woman. My mama's a Black woman. So I was surrounded by Black women and beauty. There were women, we have Native women that directed the show, an Indian woman, East Indian. So it was so much culture. There were white women that directed the show. Episode 4 is directed by Tamara Davis. I think it's Tamara's last name. I'm sorry, Tamara, if I mess up your last name, but she's amazing. And one of the first things that she said when she saw me, she was like, oh my God, this is like Game of Thrones. If you don't know this world, everyone is so specific and so iconic in their own set of truths that the audience, when you're watching this show, you're getting to know this character, their world, their home. And then you're turning and you're watching this, and it doesn't feel like a trick to me when I watch the show. It doesn't feel divisive and manipulative with your emotions. It literally is just a jewelry box that's placed before you. And it's like, hey, here you go. Here are these diamonds. Here are these rubies. These are these people. So I just want people, when they're watching it at home, you know what I'm saying? We in COVID, all that stuff, throw them dollars. You should come to every Sunday night. First on the 12th is at 9, but after that, after Hightown's finale, which is another lovely show, 8 o'clock, get at least 50 bones, get $50. Bones is dollars, everybody. So get you some 50 bones, throw it at the screen when you feel it. And that feeling of throwing the money is an act of liberation as well. So yeah.
Yeah. There's a level of authenticity when you watch the show. Each and every character and their interactions feels real and authentic and raw. And there are also a lot of conversations going on. There's gentrification, there's colorism, there's misogyny, especially misogynoir that we're seeing. Do you feel like watching the show and in a way that is accessible and digestible will help audience sort of have these conversations that are a little difficult?
Yes. I think that these are the conversations that we as Black people in America are living every day. I think that these are the conversations that you're having with your friends, that have conversations you're having with your girlfriends and boyfriends when you come home from work, expressing, the stress from the day or those frustrations. I think that the difference is with our show, I don't know if we've ever, I think seeing those issues attacked with nuance on this level of a platform, on being, on a network like Starz is monumental. I think that people think that this show is just about TNA. I think that people think that this show is just about gangsters and pimps and all that kind of stuff. And it is anything but. This is a family. This is, as Katori and I say, we say framily. Family. A combination of friends and family truly coming together to really live and fight for each other.
Right. And sort of watching that family, as y'all called it, interact with one another. Do you hope that seeing this will help people really not just humanize, but respect the stories that are going on with people who work in the clubs and come from these identities?
I hope, it's one of my hopes that people, as they watch this show, that their lives are changed. Their actions are adjusted. Listen, we are in the midst of an entire revolution right now, right? We're in the midst of this change, and I think that if we do not have a level of ownership ourselves, and what did you do today, and how did you interact with the woman or the man or at the grocery store or the bank or what have you, that is all a part of what this world can really offer. And I hope that, the revolution continues inside on each person and arresting their humanity, and taking that level of consideration and asking people, what do they think? Oh, your name is what? What is that about? Okay. Let me ask you, do you know what's the heritage of it? I like that. I often ask people that, I've been Black all my life, every single day, but they're names that I haven't heard before, and finding out what that means. So I think that level of compassion is necessary and definitely will help us all get through this and beyond.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you are originally from Detroit. I'm from Chicago, so shout out to the Midwest.
Come on, Midwest. She did some research, y'all.
But Detroit has this beautiful music history, especially Black music history. And trap music plays such a huge role in the storytelling of this show. Did you tap into sort of your musical history from where you come from, but also the musical history that you're showcasing on this show?
Absolutely. Like I was saying that, I listen to a lot of Southern trap and rap artists to get in the zone. It also was helpful, I would listen to Alita Adams. I would listen to Phyllis Hyman. I would listen to Anita Baker, because I always think that there is an adverse, there's the trap side, but when Uncle Clifford goes home, what is she listening to? And listening to some Donny Hathaway, listening to some gospel music, that's the stuff that plays in the house. It's a varied experience. We, as Black people, are not just a monolith. We are not just one thing. We are beauty and monster. You know what I'm saying? We all, humans, have that inside of us. We have that part that's lovely and beautiful, but we also have some dark places that we can go to, whether that's insecurities or things that you've done that you may not be so proud of. I just think that to not tell that truth would be a mistake. It would be a mistake, because we're talking about a strip club, so there's a level of vulnerability there. There's a stripping not just of clothing, to see the body, but mostly to see the spirit.
Right.
To see the spirit. Yeah.
Right. And sort of with seeing the spirit of these characters, what was that like? Not just interacting with the narrative of Uncle Clifford, but also interacting with building sort of the connection with each character.
It was something that accelerated the experience, if that makes sense. We did this for 5 months, but because we were so open and honest as the characters, it formed the bond between us as a cast much quicker than it normally would have, I believe, and in my past experience. And it brought it to a level of authenticity and just unmitigated truth. It was like, no, like you knew who could do something because, like a mama knows her child.
Absolutely.
It was kind of like that. Like, like, that's Parker. Parker said that. Parker did it. Parker did it, Oh, nope, that was Nicco. Like, who's that singing? What we doing? Here comes Nicco. You hear the heels clacking, so we all got to know each other on such an intimate level that was just accelerated.
Yeah. And so my final question is, what do you hope audiences will gain from watching the show and taking part in this story?
I hope that they gain a level of awareness for humanity. I hope that people are not afraid or ashamed of their questions. I think that to have questions and to not understand a person or a situation fully, I think that's healthy. Healthy. My sister has always said to me, that life begins at the point of your discomfort. And so if something makes you a little uncomfortable because you don't know or you're a little afraid, I encourage those people to find out more about it. We all have these things at our fingertips. We have these computers. It's not like you have to go to the library necessarily to always gain access to information. So I hope that people are more compassionate and considerate when they see people, when they see trans women, when they see trans men, when they see Black women and Black men and brown men and Latin men and Mexican men. And I feel that it's a level of humanity that the times are calling and demanding that we live at. It's a standard that is pulling everybody up and calling people out on their mess.
So do you feel like the show has the power to call people out on their mess and their discomfort?
Absolutely. The show deals with social unrest, community activism, policy. It deals with all those things. You mentioned colorism. I think those are all the little nuances that I think from the first episode, people are like, oh, this is what y'all talking about. Oh, this is what y'all dealing with, and it's like, your cousin that may have worked in the strip club, or what's the movie, Soul Food? Remember, have you seen Soul Food?
I've seen Soul Food.
So you remember when the cousin, she went into the strip club? Like, there's a reason behind that. There's a reason and a thought process. The show does not just deal with the strip club, it deals with the reason behind. It deals with the why, it deals with the how, and it deals with the where you're going. Uncle Clifford's number one rule, the very first rule that every girl must learn, or every worker that must learn that's working at the Pink, is let the stage be your stepping stone, not your tombstone.
Thank you so much. It was such a great interview, and thank you for sharing these stories.
You're welcome. Thank you. It was great talking to you.
Have a good one.
All right, you too.